So lab 0 viewer, hey, what up? But this is being recorded?
Yeah. Waiting for the guys. Can you pass me some tobacco?
Because it's not tobacco, because it's chocolate. I'll share that with you.
Is there anything else?
Looking forward.
Will you make it?
Looking forward question. Cool. Make sure you close all your Facebooks and stuff.
But that's where I get the questions.
Pat that. No one's gonna put in questions.
Why is this one not started yet? Oh yeah, that's a different one.
You better be editing the beginning of this video.
Yeah, we'll have to.
I don't know why you went live already.
Because then people can drop into know that it's actually happening. It's a new idea with this split screen. Sammy, do you have a little filter for me? Somewhere.
Yeah. Whoa. No hands. I make a little noise, just a little bit.
But they said they're around.
They asked for the questions in advance, like 3 minutes before. They're like, are you going to send the questions before? I was like, here they are, but please, they'll be up on screen as well. So now they're reading the questions and preparing, I guess.
But they didn't get it before.
They never asked for them. You don't send them every time, right? We just send them if they ask for them.
No, we submit every time.
Yeah? Like it's in the, what's it called?
Press kit.
Guide? Quick
It's
guide?
not a guide.
But in the quick guide, it says you will get them beforehand, or you will get them if you ask.
No, you get
Ah, see, I thought it said if you ask. My bad. I didn't know. I'm gonna have to shorten this one up afterwards. Well, Burke's on fire today.
I look better under pressure, I think.
Under pressure.
Under pressure too.
Can I get some of that beer?
Oh yeah. I think I had too much coffee today. Maybe some cigarette will help me. She was running now. Having a hard time with the system.
Oh.
Come on, guys. That's it.
It's so tough.
And load them like 100 times. Why did I make it so long?
I'm sending two.
Do email and like a chat. I think the chat's better. But I just do both every time.
Good. Not good.
You're like,
Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Can we make the 7, 8, 9, Jeff?
yeah, you can start. Can you start with that? You can start with the joke.
No.
You can end with it.
And our last question, why did 6 hate 7? Well, no, why was 6 afraid of 7?
Yeah, practice a little bit.
Because 7, 8, 9. Good day.
There's 0 viewers at least, so we were not wasting anybody's time.
I don't count as a viewer.
No.
No, I'm just invited to the call. Okay.
You're just presenting.
Hey guys,
Oh, hey.
Hello.
How's it going?
very good. How are you?
Hi.
Hey, Burke.
We're running the thing that you're clicking on something wrong here. It seems to me.
Okay, but now you're good. This is where you're supposed to be.
Do we have it? Is it choppy?
No, it's good.
Good.
You're good.
Yeah.
Can you hear us fine?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
Lots of people in there.
That's why they call work.
Can they all hear us? Hello.
This is Johanna. You're seeing right here.
Hi.
How's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm Dan. This is Ali.
Hi.
Dan. Where are you from, Dan?
Born in Croatia, grew up in Canada.
Yeah. And where do you live now? In Berlin?
In Berlin, yeah.
Wow. Cool.
I'm a Winnipegger at heart.
Yeah, we have one of your people here.
No.
There's always a Winnipegger
There's
involved
always a
in everything. What?
That call's coming on as well. So we just got your questions, so we have no idea what they are.
Yeah, it's okay. We can
They're not too heavy.
roll with it.
Right.
We normally ask the same questions to every collective that we interview, but this time it's a little bit different because you're an actual office. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. Would you describe yourselves as an office or as a collective? Just curious.
Yeah, we're not as collective as collectives are, but we are not as office as typical offices are, so I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So we've tried to account for that a little bit more than usual. Not asking the same questions like, how do you make money? It's one that we like to ask. Okay. Do you want to start?
Yeah, let's start.
Scheme is fairly typical for an office. That we charge for work, and we try to be diligent about charging for the work so that we can pay our people fairly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I especially specialize in money-losing projects as well, where we try to do public service campaigns and things like that that tend to sort of use the resources more so than I think a typical office would do. So.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get into some of that kind of stuff. But first, I just want to introduce the conference call. So we started this, our collective ONOFF started this in the fall of 2014, and this is the 13th call. And today we're talking to 5468796 architecture, also referred to maybe as the numbered company, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm Dan, this is Ali. Maybe you guys can introduce yourselves over in Winnipeg.
Hi, I'm Johanna.
Colin. And I'm Sasha, and that's most of the rest of us.
Okay, great. Okay, so our first question is, what is your company? How would you talk about your origins and how many you are, and
Where your name come from?
and the name.
We're all curious. It looks like a phone number to me, but I don't know.
It's our company incorporation name, and when we first started, we were walking back from having sort of filed for the corporate papers, and then decided that, or we've been trying to think what to call the studio, and we had pretty sort of hard to pronounce, difficult last names, and thought, well, that's certainly not it. But mostly, really, it's supposed to reflect the idea that people who are working here are working with us, and not sort of for some predetermined entity. So the fact that it's this weird number helps in that messaging. And then of course that's the only time and place when you could have gotten that number in Manitoba. So it's sort of a record of that day too.
And you started in 2007.
That's right.
What was the? How did you kind of start working? It was like Sasha and you that started the company?
We started, like, Colin and Johanna and I both went to school together, and Colin,
Yeah, it's a
Colin
little bit
got
difficulty with English. We tried to
with English. Colin got kids and got married early, so he skipped a couple of years and so on. So we sort of lost touch, and Johanna and I kept on working together as students. Then got a job together in the city working for the same company. Worked there for quite a few years, and then we're kind of disgruntled by some of the apathy that we were seeing towards architecture in the city, and then said, hey, why don't we give it a shot and see if we can change that, and or at least change it for ourselves. And so that's how we started in 2007. It's purely, it was really a reactionary move. We're feeling we wanted to do things that the practice we worked for was great, but we wanted to do things that we felt strongly about, and we weren't quite feeling that was being satisfied to the practice there. And then we started in my condo and thought we were gonna likely fail within the first year, and thought we'll be still fairly employable. We were in our early to mid 30s at the time, so it was a time when you
I
should
was
be
much
employable.
younger than that.
Than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still am much younger.
You're still younger.
Anyhow,
Still almost as much younger.
but then Colin was the only one of our peers who then ended up sending us a big sort of card that he had made himself. It was some sort of cool skyline. I still have it somewhere. And a bottle of champagne to say, like, way to go, guys. This is awesome, whatever. And then
I was part of the apathy before that. I was working for a different firm and sort of wondering what is going to happen in Europe. And it was refreshing to see.
But then, and then we called him right back and left this ridiculous message in his voicemail. Something like, "Hey, come and work with us." I don't know. I think we had a few drinks. Anyway, serendipitously, we happened to be in the Vancouver airport at the same time. He was on his way to Seattle, and I don't know what we were doing there. And we had this sort of meeting in the airport lounge where we hatched out sort of a deal about him joining us. So that was cool. About 7 months later, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was your job application, a big card.
Job application. It was just we had no idea what we were. We knew less about what we were doing than we do now.
And did you have, at this point, when you all met in the Vancouver airport, did you have some projects like renovations or something? Like I scrolled all the way to the right on your website, and there was some apartment renovations or something that were first.
Those were condos. One is Johanna's and one is mine that we did while we were with the working for our employer or the firm Colmar Architects here in the city. They became a bit of a calling card. What happened with us, we were convinced we were going to be working in the kitchen renos and basement renos for years after we start. What happened, though, unbeknownst to, so without understanding why, we got a job every day for, I think, 2 months.
No, the first 30 days.
First 30 days?
Yeah.
So we had 30 jobs by the end of the first month being in business. Some of them were really small. Some of them were large enough for us to sort of sustain the office. And so we hired, the first person was Ken, who's right there waving. He started with us 2 weeks in, and then we hired another guy 3 weeks in. So it really, what happened is something we did not expect at all.
Nor can we still explain, I guess, today.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was an opportune time.
Like, I came within the first year, and there was already 8 or 9 people joined, right?
Right.
Like, I think
Yeah.
I was the 8th or something.
Yeah, you came in as an 8th person. So we
How
grew.
many people are you now there?
You're 15 or 16? 15.
15 at the moment, Brandon is 16.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Maybe we just go with the line of questioning. So the next question. I mean, we were looking at some images of Venice Biennale 2012, which you can maybe talk about. But our question is the Canadian context or your references when you started. What was your connecting point? Like you're talking about, you were disenchanted and with some places you were working at, I guess. And what were you looking to when what kind of projects did you want to make, or how did you get started with the references?
To comment on the Canadian context, I guess a little bit relating to the Venice Biennale project, and that would be just that I think at least Sasha and I grew up in Europe, so we're both from contexts where architecture was much more ingrained into the identity of countries, and then when we sort of landed in Canada in our adult age already, it became sort of clear that it isn't really something that you can, let's say, Google and get a clear answer, what is Canadian architecture? And so the Venice project was trying to get to the bottom of, is there something more potent, kind of underlying, because we're very much an immigrant country, there's all kinds of people with different pockets of kind of strength and strengthen their identity, and whether we could uncover that and find a different way to express what it means to be Canadian. So that was that project. But I think if we talk about our work and its relationship to, you know, the Canadian context, I think it's much more maybe a Winnipeg context that we were originally reacting to. We were sort of trying to react to that there was not much going on. How do we sort of try to shake the establishment a little bit? How do we work with the parameters that are here, which is very hard-nosed economy, not a lot to play around with, not a lot of resources to squeeze architecture into our work, and we knew or learned very early on then from the developer community that we worked for that in order for us to instill architecture in any of the work, we first have to meet their performa and sort of profit quotas. And you know, if we do that, then there's room to talk about architecture.
If you beat that.
If you beat that, that's right. If you leave a little bit.
It's not an environment that architecture is sort of reduced to luxury, which is probably not uncommon in small markets. But
second cities.
That sort of reduces it or eliminates it from most discussions, and we were trying really hard to. That's the context that this was. So trying very hard to find a way to bring architecture not just as a luxury, but as something intrinsic.
And rudimentary, so that you can't sort of value engineer the architecture out of it through the course of the job.
Yeah. In North America, I think it's difficult to have like a political practice, in my opinion, from a European perspective. Would you say that in this developer world?
Do you mind repeating that, Dan?
I mean, I feel like in the North American context with developers and like the engineers and the construction people taking the legal aspects, they make it more difficult to have a political agenda, potentially.
To a point, you know what? The people are generally good, and they want to do the best that they can within certain within the parameters of any project. So I would say even within all of our projects, 95% of the time, everybody wants to do their best. Sometimes things get in the way, right? And sometimes those things are political, and sometimes they're social or economical, and so on. So the trying not to lose sight of that as you move through the process, and as things get tougher, and as you're ground for 2 or 3 years throughout the process of the project. That is I think that's one of the strengths that we bring, which is like we rarely lose sight of our own. I guess targets are the targets that we've developed with people that we work with.
I think he's asking about the difference between sort of European mentality and what we encounter.
Yeah, it's hard to speak to North America generally because most of our work, we're not doing work outside the city. Most of our work is in Winnipeg, and most of our work is for I guess entrepreneurial enterprises, so people that need to make money off of it. And so what do
you mean we don't work outside the city? We work in.
No, we do. But most of our work that's built has been built here, right?
Sorry, yeah.
Yes.
But the starting point is not political. The starting point is typically entrepreneurial or through developer, etc. So, but what I think one of the things Sasha is saying is that that's sort of the starting point. In often case, it's the ending point with other projects, with other practices, etc. But most people have an ambition to engage the political, the social, those scenes if shown a way. And I think that's something that we really feel strongly with. Well, maybe in European practice, which I've never, none of us practice there, you can start with an agenda or start with a social and political agenda. Here you have to start with that entrepreneurial, but you can add it. You just have to be diligent on adding it.
But for example, this project with the table on Esplanada Riel or these dinners. I don't know this.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are started kind of on the grounds without money making.
Well, if you want to talk about these projects, I think one of the, they are actually quite political, if you wish, and it all started really with the Venice Biennale, right?
Yeah, this would be this would be sort of more what we talked about, kind of the public service projects, where we're trying to affect the cultural climate that we occupy and try to instill architecture as part of culture, which in Winnipeg at least has sort of very much disappeared when we first entered the field anyway, had disappeared from that cultural radar. And so we've been trying to work ever since, I guess, kind of off and on projects that would elevate the profile of architecture in the larger community. And in 2013, then we were lucky enough to receive the Prix de Rome for Canada, and that allowed us some funds to research architectural cultures around the world. That's what that map is getting at, and those dinners then. So what we propose to do is have 8 dinners across the world, really, and try to get to the bottom through the lubrication, I guess, of wine and food, to what really is at the core, what drives architecture culture, how it affects your work environment, that climate that you operate in, and who are the players, you know, whether it's the political authorities, whether it's media, whether it's the developer community. So what are the forces at play? And the idea was to bring those lessons back to Winnipeg so that we could implement some of them here. And the finale was the table for 1200 then in Winnipeg. And again, table discussion about the value of design and architecture in our city.
But it became really a hottest ticket for a few days. It did sell in 36 hours. We had our future mayor at the table and all the mayoral candidates at the time. So the idea was to engage broader public into discussions of design. There's a lot of discussions, if you wish, internally to the profession, and then there's a lot of movement within it, even on a political level. But to engage the general public, that was
So creating an interface for that conversation.
Right? So they've ran another event like that. There's probably 10 different things that have happened in the last 7 or 8 years that have to do with advocacy for architecture. We have an architecture foundation. We have an architectural gallery. We have a storefront for architecture, which is a not-for-profit organization that puts together all kinds of events. We do warming huts in winter, cooling gardens in summer, crit sessions with architects, where different architects criticize each other's work. We do that both in public and so yeah, the front lines working with the
local newspaper,
right? And so the local newspaper writes about article. We have a fellow architect that writes for Free Press every 3 weeks. So there's an architecture article in the local paper coming out.
You're making it sound
weeks.
like we did all this. We didn't.
No, I was just saying.
But it is all
this is what's happening.
Yeah, so there's definitely something in the water. People wanting to do that.
We've been involved in a lot of it, but we're not driving all of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and in this same scope of we have this question of what is the role of the public in your project?
I think you answered that question a lot already, but there's the obvious
the hot
question,
topic.
the Center Village.
Yeah, the other part. There's the other part that doesn't relate to these types of projects, but relates to then our desire and belief that we should be allowing each project to be part of the network of public spaces that create a city. And in this project, as well as many other housing projects that we have done, we have tried to carve out public outdoor space, shared community space for people to occupy. Because we do think that that's perhaps the difference between, again, our background, the European sort of setting versus the North American setting, where nobody thinks a multifamily housing complex is something where you can live for life. That this would be something that's appropriate for a student or a senior, but it isn't a place where you would bring up your family and so on. So we think that it has a lot to do with the lack of that outdoor space, that common space where you can, as a child, actually forge friendships or have social interactions where you kind of create a community in a way. So we're not saying that architecture does all that, but it certainly can provide a framework where that can occur.
And obviously there are different views on that. you have read in Guardian and our responses and our Daily's analysis, and now Guardian is going to publish our responses of yesterday. So, we can leave that at that. But if one was to look at our work over the last 8 or 9 years, there's been at least 10 projects of this type that we've completed, and each one of them was trying to tackle the issue of low-rise housing and that typology actually in a different way. And I think they're mostly showcased on our website, but not all of them are. And each one of them tests a different thing. So we are now, after they've reached the maturity of 4 to 5 years, we're now going back trying to evaluate them from user perspective, because that will then feed back to the future projects that we're doing. And I think it's a pursuit that we're very interested in. We're doing projects like this now in Toronto as well, and trying to define the right thing to do in those projects is sort of a lost art, and we're really interested in finding what the right thing is.
And they start exactly like your question was, what role is public play in our architecture, but really each one of those projects starts from that question: is what role can the public play in those projects? Because the givens are the project, right? That you have to have a certain number of units and you have to do those things, but how do we engage the city? How do we engage? That is really the question that each one of them tries to answer, and it answers it based on context, based on all sorts of aspects that it's integral to each project.
Yeah. As I was saying, we try to make sure that each project weaves itself into the city, if that makes sense, and vice versa. We want to make sure the city can weave itself through the project, and that we do through sequence usually, or a necklace, if you wish, of public spaces that we carve out of both physically and from developers' pro formas, and then try to create some sort of a land fertile for engagement, whatever that engagement is.
But do you think that maybe you then have too much faith in the public or the city as a whole?
I would say that, I keep telling this story where, where I grew up, we would say in the language even that we would say we're from that yard, or we're from that outdoor space, as opposed to from a particular building. That's how it worked, and so it does play a huge role in again, like the kind of community that you associate yourself with. And it's possible, of course, that we place a high sort of expectation on that within our internal thinking, but I don't see how else we could go about it, honestly. Like, if we were to do blocks of buildings where there is no space to occupy, then I don't know. I personally probably
actually do believe in power of public. If you, as Colin said in his conversations with our Daily, if you close the door today, it's never going to open, right? If you keep it open, then there's potential for a lot of things to happen. And you know, cities on a very academic level are sort of playgrounds for potentials, right? And you have to play to that as opposed to trying to shut the potential down. And I think that's part of our thinking when it comes to creating vibrancy. If you think about Winnipeg's downtown, it was far from vibrant even 10 years ago, and that has been changing leaps and bounds over the last years. And it's actually by people recognizing potentials and plugging into it.
And maximizing them. And like actually trying to realize those potentials, not just passing on them or putting them on them. But if you don't create them, then they don't exist.
Yeah.
And they never exist, right? So the projects have to contribute to the life of the city.
Yeah, and I think in this Guardian article or somewhere somebody mentioned this idea of Jane Jacobs in terms of casual surveillance of public space, and this kind of concept of keeping it open also and not gating down the public courtyards. I mean, this is like a reference, I guess, a Canadian reference, right, Jane Jacobs?
Yeah, it's a very good reference. You know, one thing that's interesting is Central Village is one of 6 or 7 projects that we've done in the inner city. Each one of them facing similar problems or similar milieu, if you wish, each one of them is doing it because of our design ambitions, I guess, doing it in a slightly different way. But a lot of things that we've done at Central Village are the things that we've learned from the projects next door, which were successful. So it's a very curious phenomenon. So we'll figure out what are the good things about it and what aren't.
Yeah. Okay. Our next question is, how rigid is your projected outcome? So when you actually start working and you come up with these concepts of, I guess, shuffling space in these housing projects, or maybe in these smaller scale projects, when you make a sketch, do you allow for things to develop?
I think they're not rigid at all. We sort of briefly looked at this question before, and I mean, we often even tell our clients that we have no idea what it's going to turn out until the process guides us. And I think that sometimes we get looked at and thought as a firm that sort of aims for some type of aesthetic, when the reality is that we have all kinds of constraints that drive what we can do in a project, and that's what generates this aesthetic. It has nothing to do with, you know, our sort of preferences in the beginning or some preconceived notion about it. So we really try to be very open. And then, you know, if we take the 62M project, which is this sort of disc up in the sky that's under construction now, you know, it would be a good example where it's very easy to tell the story of how that all occurred. There was no frontage on the site, and the developer basically asked us, can we make housing work on this piece of land? And so fairly early on, it was determined that, you know, we do have to lift it up to get any sort of views beyond the highway that's right there, the industrial shed with no windows that's right there. And then once you lift it up, then you have to find other allowances that allow you to actually, you know, make up for the, the cost that you spent on lifting it up. And then we discovered that, you know, the most efficient form that you can do, the relationship of the public corridor to the actual perimeter, that determines how many suites you can put in, that the, you know, the round shape is the most efficient. And so it's these sorts of things that drive our design process through and through. And so we never do know what comes out the other end.
I would actually venture to say that we measure the success of our inquiry, if you wish, or depth of our inquiry for every project by how far it is from what the preconceived notion about the project is. We keep on surprising ourselves, and we still do, and we work with the, there's a bunch of projects that are coming up where we certainly say, as the design is finally getting to completion, we certainly say, I would have never, or any one of us would have never set off to do this project.
That's not the end game. That's not like, oh, let's do something different.
That means that we have actually exhausted. Yeah. We exhausted options, or we visited things that we did not know existed. Or
that's a good gauge.
And we also land on something inherent to the project, not aesthetic or not something that can be removed. So that, because it's all part of the process, and even getting things built is part of the process, and oftentimes things are changing even during that process. As long as you can keep what's inherent to the project, like what is the surprise of it, and understand it properly, then it doesn't get reduced to an aesthetic or something. That is the ultimate end goal. The end goal was the experience. The end goal was the spatial surprise, or the how it inserts itself into the city. But those things that can't be removed, not just the aesthetic.
The issue is that's very important to us on every project we take, is whatever we do will affect not only people that live there, but others that are part of the city, or the citizens, if you wish. And if you approach every project that way, we find that we carry a responsibility, or we feel like we carry responsibility for all 720,000 Winnipeggers with everything that we do. It's like a building block or a brick of a facade, right? It has to support the others, and that's how we look at it. So somehow it has to improve lives of not only people that are directly in touch with it, but the rest, or affect their lives. I think that the Old Market Square stage is the funniest example, where we learn the part of architecture when it comes to public opinion. And we basically split Winnipeg. I'm not sure if it's down in two halves, but we split it sort of halfway between those that like it and those that hate it. And we thought,
this is a great outcome because it started a dialogue that that didn't seem to exist before, and all of a sudden architecture was a hot topic. So that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we saw that project when we were in Winnipeg, and I'm a fan. I'm on the fan side.
Me too.
Okay, the next question is about, you kind of started talking about in the beginning there about your construction developer interactions and what kind of roles you play there, and how you use your architectural prowess in debating with the different actors in developing.
I don't think we really can be critical of the developer world because obviously we wouldn't exist if they weren't there or they weren't doing what they're doing. They take huge risks in the whole game of getting buildings built, much more perhaps than we do. And builders, the better relationship we have with the builder, the better the project ends up being in the end. So I think we're incredibly appreciative, and that's not to say that there isn't issues and there isn't differences of opinion along the way, but usually our success, if we have any, is based on how well we can maneuver through those differences.
it's really a balance between, sorry, Colin, balance between the money and the and architecture, if you wish, and we all want to find the best balance. Sometimes we might have differences of opinion, but all people that we work with.
Are those things mutually exclusive?
Sorry?
Are money and architecture mutually exclusive?
Not at all. Not at all. If you think about it, if somebody comes, in essence, at the outset of every project, a client will come in and say, I'm willing to spend $10 million. Tell me how. Right? Mm-hmm. That which is what it boils down to. Tell me how to do that. And that's actually a really, I think Colin is the one who identified that as sort of, who else gives you that much money to sort of tell them how to spend it?
Creatively.
Yeah, but you have to make it intrinsic with it. You can't be critical of the developer. Johanna said already, but they have a mandate. Their mandate, they set themselves up to build something to essentially make money off of it. And we have a mandate as well to be architects and to design our cities and to be ethically responsible, etc. And then bureaucrats or municipalities have responsibilities to create a framework that creates the proper city. So the developers, it's too easy to be critical of them for what they do and how they, ruin things or don't raise the game. Their mandate was never to raise the game. Mm-hmm. That's why. And so we have to do it. And I would think about your question as, yeah, I'll have a last word. As in cynical, should we be cynical about it? And I think the moment we become cynical, we might as well stop practicing.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, like normally the context of the people that we're talking to are people who are opting not to practice in an office environment, but rather to do this. So that's where the question comes from, just to.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
So they have chosen to start, or never start.
And I guess the other question is maybe not developers, but then the urban planners or the guys that impose more strict rules on the structures, and I don't know.
Well, I think that too often too, like that's another sort of excuse that gets used for not creating something. Almost that, the rules are too strict or the developer had demands. I think that our mandate is to work with that, work within those guidelines. And we find that if we were able to do anything, that would be much tougher actually. It is that those restrictions and limitations that drive the work, and I think that we feel more successful when we're able to be proud of a project that we've done within very strict limitations.
Mm-hmm.
However, we also recognize what individual projects can do and how far their impacts can be. And I think, like Johanna specifically drives that policy and policymakers, etc., in order to impact change. Because it could be easy. We could have frameworks that support architecture and design better and allow for risks and allow for innovation and allow for smart design, and not just try to always eliminate the lowest common, or just establish the lowest common, but shoot for the highest. And So I think we sort of, yes, we can do things with projects, and there's no excuse to not create great work in specific projects, but recognize that policy and framework is a part of this. And I think we're very passionate to sort of challenge that as well and to go after that.
Yeah, if there's something that we feel needs to change, then we try to work somehow to make it
From
happen.
both ends, right? From the project end, but also from the top end.
Yeah, urban regulations or policies are unfortunate because in most of the cases they're trying to prevent harm towards your neighbor, if you wish. And I think the only desire for one thing that all the guidelines, all the rules are suffixed, if you wish, with sort of a clause unless you can prove otherwise. Which would put an onus on architect or the developer or the team to actually do it, right? So if you tell me a regulation is this, unless you could prove that you're satisfying the intent some other way, then that would open all kinds of possibilities for us to exercise creativity. But without it, we're often stuck going through the processes that take time,
Try to fit in the boxes.
and try to fit into boxes that were invented for some other projects.
Or for some other reason.
Or for some other reason, that's right.
And in terms of the structure in your office, is like when you have people that you hire and interns, how do you actually structure your office? Is it like more like you guys are the bosses and it's a hierarchy, or is it more fluid, or yeah?
I think it's probably somewhere in between. It's not a traditional office in the sense that I think the boundaries are fairly loose, but of course there is a, when we have an actual, like a pay scale that everybody knows, when they're first year intern, this is what they get, and when they're second year, this is what it should be, sort of thing. So we've been trying to make it very transparent in that sense. Everybody's paid, well, we think fairly and up to the industry standard. There's nobody's working here for free or anything like that.
They can hear you. They can hear you.
We had this conversation. We had this conversation before.
We heard all the horrors of other offices, perhaps, and the role of interns.
We just heard this morning that somebody charges for the privilege of working.
Yeah, that happens quite often. Then.
Crazy some places, yeah. Like London.
New York.
It is part of the team. Everybody, it's all.
So part of our job as, if you think about a political aspect of it, part of our job is to not undercut our fees, if you wish, so we cannot pay the people that have actually done the work that somebody else is going to make money off.
Like, money is not a dirty word in our office. We talk about it often, and we talk about it frequently. We have quarterly reviews. We actually, the staff knows what the office makes and how the jobs are performing, for the reason that, we can then work collectively to try to improve our situation, and so that we would then create a work fair and sort of improve our level of compensation for all of us together.
Yeah, and I mean, just that picture of you guys all working around a table, the way the office is laid out, it seems like a very promoting. Yeah, you guys aren't sitting in another. I mean, I don't know if you guys are sitting in another desk and coming in and whatever, or just.
Although it's getting short. We're just negotiating for a bigger space so we can continue. Get longer.
But it is everybody at the same desk. Valuing architecture starts it isn't just out there in the world, and it isn't it happens. We have to value our own time. We have to value people's time, like interns to whoever. If we believe that there's value in architecture, then you should get compensated and paid for contributing to that value.
They have master's degrees.
Just like we feel that the work that we do for our clients should be compensated, right? It has value. It's not out of the goodness of their heart that they've hired, right? There's a value to it, and it can be reflected all through the project, through the office, etc.
It puts us, we understand that, into a weird position where we're competing with people that actually do hire or engage in free labor. Like, as Johannes says, everybody that you see here plus have put at least 7 years of their money and time into education to achieve a master's degree, and you're not going to pay them. But they can't live in North America if you don't pay them either. That makes no sense.
It's a big problem in Berlin, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of precarious labor and going out on a whim without knowing if you're going to get paid and all this kind of. But, yeah.
Yeah, we do it to ourselves.
Yeah, we do it to ourselves. Exactly.
That's right.
Say it as it's the wrong message.
Like one of the important aspects is that we, as Johanna was saying, we have she calls them the non-for-profit initiatives that are very political in their agenda. That are again supported by actually doing architecture, building buildings. That is all supported by, I think, creating a sustainable office. That we are not able to push, if you wish, on all aspects of practice of architecture and practicing it on as high a level as we can humanly achieve, then I think we lose validity in any one of those attempts. So that's why we're trying to be, I'm not sure if we're strong, but we're trying to put our best foot forward in each one of those aspects of what we do.
Okay, and our last question is your proudest. It's a two-part question, so maybe I don't know how to split it up amongst the three of you, but you can pick a highest and lowest point in your
career thus
8 years, 9 years. I don't know how long it is.
I think that we sort of, it's not really a moment, but I think the one thing that we're quite proud of is the fact that we are from this fairly obscure place and somehow have been able to make it work here, or make architecture something in Winnipeg. I think that's sort of generally what we...
That was rephrased that we didn't make architecture something, we made our work.
No, that's what I mean, really.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. But you know, like we used to say this thing, and you would know this if you're from Winnipeg, but that if you should be able to make, you should be able to become some sort of a player, even if you're in Flin Flon. So that's sort of what we're trying to get at. That isn't your context. You don't have to be in New York. You don't have to be in San Francisco or Tokyo to have a role to play in architecture. And the fact that we're still in business, 9 years later. I think that's what we're proud of.
Come on, failures.
Any disappointments?
Sure, of course.
There's disappointments all the time.
There's disappointments every day.
I think that it keeps it moving. Like, I don't know, this is maybe a lame answer, but like there are successes and things to be proud of every day, and there's sort of struggles and things that so that didn't work. So now what? Let's try something else. And I don't think we really dwell on something that didn't work. We just, we got to find a different answer. We got to find you can't sort of just be disappointed in a failure or a failed attempt at convincing someone for that. But for me, it's the proudest moments are the unexpected design that comes to fruition in the built world, and the day that it gets installed or that you get to go to the site and your client, you realize for the first time, actually understands what they're getting and they are thrilled at it. Those seem to happen on almost every project, and those are my proudest moments. I love to
turn this biggest failure into the proudest
moment.
Good spin.
That's good.
Spin doctor over there.
On every project, and then you go to the next day and
then you get over it and
try again.
The failures are constant, and that's a given. They're constant. Yeah, they happen daily, and it's how we.
But as you can probably tell, we don't dwell on that. We just sort of try to move forward. I think that's one of the things that we're relatively good at. Like good at in a sense that. What's that? We're in denial?
I live in denial. My ex-wife is saying that I live in denial.
So with a smile on our faces and go to the next thing. So
it's not that we're afraid to talk about them. It's just that,
I don't even know where to begin. Like, there's tons.
All right, that's good enough. But I also just wanted to congratulate you on the Artist of the Year award that I saw on your webpage, and all the other awards and your success, actually. Because we live in Europe, and I was trying to find a Canadian group to talk to, and your work kind of came out obviously on top, and we just want to thank you for talking to us today and doing what you're doing, and yeah,
Come to Berlin.
and come to Berlin for a visit sometime.
We will actually.
We'll be in Germany in this
In
year,
the
no?
fall.
In the fall, yeah. So we'll give you a shout.
Cool, great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much for talking to us.
Bye.
Bye bye.